Thank you for joining me today for today's webinar. Um, my name is Ali Zakir. I'm a techno-functional consultant with AblyPro. This is the seventh video in a series of videos that we're conducting for field service, for Salesforce Field Service. And today's topic is going to be specifically about the dispatcher console. So we'll be diving into the dispatcher console and looking at the features that we have with it and what we can do with it. So we'll be looking at the territories, we'll be looking at the technicians within the Gantt view. We'll also be looking at filters that we can apply on the Gantt and on the views that we have. We'll also look at the map views and the scheduling optimization. There are quite a few things that the dispatcher console, features that it has. The way I view the dispatcher console, if you have a remote operation where you have technicians out in the field, what the dispatcher console allows you to do is it's like a window to your field operations. It allows you to know what resources you have at what location, if they're running late for an appointment, if there's any issues, not only for today, but for the following days also. So the dispatcher console is primarily used by a dispatcher in your operations, as well as it can be used by managers and things like that, just to have a view of what's happening out in the field. So, whoops, what we're going to do is we're going to jump into the org and just look around and see what features it has. So, for my thing down here. So this is the main dispatcher console. And the way to get to this is once you've obviously installed your managed package, um, you will see these two options here for field service and field service admin. Where we want to go is to field service. I'm just going to click on that. And we go to field service tab. Give that a moment to load. And this is the main view that we have. So once again, there's a lot of information here, and there's a lot of configurations that a dispatcher can do on the fly, and then also configurations that can be done globally for a team or for a organization. So on the right side here, this is referred to as the Gantt view. And on the left-hand side, this would be your resources or resource list or your appointments. So we'll step through everything one at a time. So the first thing I want to show you is actually, if you look over here, these are the KPIs. So for today's date, in terms of what we have scheduled, we have 3 hours worth of work scheduled. This is this first item here. And then the second item we have here where the little car is, we have 46 minutes of travel time, and then we have 2 appointments. We do not have any issues or violations, and we don't have any alerts. So this is a limited org, and I only have one license. So on this particular view, I just have this one technician called Bobby Fisher. So you can see the name here, Bobby Fisher. We can also see that there are tech tier 2. And if you notice over here, they are in the Dallas territory. And then if we scroll over here, we can see the time of the operating hours, as you might say. So if you notice here, this part here is grayed out, as well as this part here. And what we have in white is the actual operating hours for this territory, which is Dallas. So it's from 8 a.m. till 5 p.m. And for Bobby Fisher, he has 2 service appointments scheduled at the moment. And then in the middle there, he has a break. And if you hover over the these particular items, the appointments or the break, we can get further detail about what that exactly is. So once again, we'll get into that. So going back to here, this is the KPIs. Typically, you would have more technicians listed here, anywhere from 10, 15, whatever the case may be, as well as you can have additional territories listed here also. So in my case, I only have Dallas because I only have Bobby Fisher. But in a typical organization, you can have more territories, which we talked about in a previous webinar. So that could be geographically or however you want to determine your territory by country and things of that nature. So coming back to the KPIs, this is an overall KPI for everyone that we have listed on the Gantt view. So as we only have Bobby Fisher, we're only seeing these KPIs. So typically you'd have, let's say, a dozen technicians listed here. So, this would be a total of the hours of the scheduled work time, the travel time, and then these are the completed services. Right now it says 0 of 2 because they haven't completed anything, and if there's any violations or any alerts. So this would be the KPIs as a whole for your day, for whomever you have on your Gantt view. So going back to this particular individual, Bobby Fisher, they have two service appointments. Service appointment is 0012. And if we hover over it, we can get some further details. So the status is scheduled. We have the earliest start time, the due date. You have a parent record, and then also you have the service address here. So in this case, it's Herb Keller Way, and then you have some additional information about the start, finish, and travel to. So it's saying it's 18 minutes, and that 18 minutes, if you notice here, there's a little line here, and that indicates the travel time. So not only do you have it listed here as 18 minutes, but also you have a graphical representation of that. So if we come over here to the second service appointment that we have listed here, I'm just going to move over here. So once again, same information. You have the earliest start time, the due date, parent record, the address, and then the start finish time. And in this one, you actually see travel to 33 minutes and travel from 41 minutes. And once again, on the Gantt itself, that's represented with these lines. So that just gives you a graphical representation to know, how much a technician is traveling. And the reason why that's important is as a dispatcher, you can, if need be, move service appointments around that work that would make more sense. And once again, you can do it manually if you like, or you can have the system do it for you. So I'm just going to put these back to how they were before, or close enough. So we'll just put this over here for now. Okay. We'll come back to looking at it again. So that's what the service appointments look like on the Gantt. Now, if we look over here on the right-hand side, we can define what we want to display on the Gantt view in terms of dates. So right now we're looking at Thursday, April 20th. If we wanted to change that, we can come over here, we can change the date, we can change the time frame that we have displayed in the Gantt. So you could do daily, 2 days out, 3 days out, weekly, 2 weeks out. So that's just so once again, we're just looking at one day here, but if you wanted to, argument's sake, look at 3 days in your view or 2 days and have a look at your service appointments, you can just change that view. So once again, we're under the Gantt view here. The other thing that we can look at here is the map. So what the map will allow you to do is have a look at your service appointments for the day, and for a specific resource. So if I can zoom in here a little bit, you'll see this icon here. This is the home base for the technician, Bobby Fisher. So this is their home base. That's a representation. Now, if you notice here, we have a van truck icon here, and if you hover over it, it gives you the service appointment. So it's giving you a graphical representation on the map, for that service appointment, where it's located. And if you come over here, here's another service appointment that we have, which is 0014. So, going back when we were viewing, for Bobby Fischer, he has two service appointments. So on this map, we have that representation with those two service appointments here. If we wanted to, we could layer on additional traffic. So for a dispatcher, they can see, okay, there's traffic here, there's traffic coming up here. So if the dispatcher decides to move things around manually, they can do that, or you can allow the system to do it for you. Typically, you would want the system to do it for you because especially when you have a lot of service appointments, a lot of technicians or service resources, doing things manually becomes very tedious and very difficult. So that's where the power of field service comes in terms of from a scheduling perspective and optimization. So if you come back here, we have markers. So these are the things that would be highlighted on the map. So we have home base, which we looked at just over here. We have the service appointments, as well as it's showing the service territory. If we come over here, we can select a specific service resource to have a look at. And these are some reports which we won't look at right now. But that's the main feature of the maps. You can see where your technician is based out of, you can see where they are, you can see the travel time, and you can also see the routes that they would take on that particular day. So now if you come back to the Gantt, the other thing that we want to have a look at is we have Gantt chart filters, which is this item here. If you click on here, what this allows you to do is apply specific filters that you would apply on the Gantt. So if there's certain items you want to just look at or focus on, you can select those items here. For example, if you want to just show weekends or highlight the weekends, long-term view settings, so only multi-day service appointments. So there's a whole bunch of settings in here that you can have a look at and that you can play. You can also look for specific resources. You can sort them: capacity-based, active, service type, name, average, utilization. So once again, there's a lot of settings that we can look at here. And if you are utilizing crews, you can select those items here also. So we've got resources here, we have skills. So if you wanted to highlight certain things like a certain type of skill, like for example here, fiber, you could enable that, and then only those service appointments would show up with those skills. Utilization, choose what factors are considered when calculating utilization. So once again, appointments, absences, overtime, breaks, travel time. There's quite a few settings here that you can apply for the filters. Also, you have palettes where you can color coordinate certain items that would appear on the Gantt view. So, and you can add to this also. So the other item that we can look at here is absences. So if you want to do, let's say you have a service technician that's out in the field and they're calling out sick or something happens, you can create a absence So now in this particular org, and you can customize the list here, we have vacation, meeting, training, and medical. So you can select whatever applies, and then you can put it on the Gantt. And then also here you have the time, and you can set the time also. So if it's 30 minutes or whatever the case may be, you can apply those filters. So like for example, what we have here is if we come over to the Gantt, we have a resource absence for the 20th from 12 p.m. to 12:30, and the reason is it's a medical. So let's say it's a resource absence in the middle of the day. They're not will not be able to perform a service appointment, and they'll be out. Or maybe if they're on a break, like a lunch break or whatever the case may be, you can have that on the Gantt, so you know exactly when that resource would not be available. Um, So what we will do is we'll have, and then if there are any alerts that you want to have, these would be highlighted here, optimization requests, and then this would be also notifications, and these would be highlighted if need be. Right. So now what we're going to do is move over to the left side of the dispatcher console. So the top part here, we have the policy, and we have a number of policies here. Default in the managed package, you have customer first, emergency, high intensity, and soft boundaries. And these items we had covered in a previous webinar. And this is a custom one that we have in this all ASAP now. This is just in terms of from a scheduling point perspective, which policy is being applied to do the scheduling of your resources. Now, if you move over here, we have territory filtering. So right now, we just have Dallas on the Gantt, and as you can see over here, we have Dallas. So argument's sake, if we were to uncheck that and save it, so we must have, must have at least one territory. Okay, so we'll have Dallas here. Actually, let's do it this way. So what happened here? We don't have a service resource. We enabled Let's come back here. We enabled Austin, but we don't have any service resources allocated that are active in the Austin area. So when we saved it for Austin, we don't have a service resource listed here because once again, we don't have anybody assigned to Dallas. I mean to Austin. Now, if we were to recheck Dallas, Houston, so now we have three listed here. We have Austin, Dallas, and Houston. The only service resource that we have in the system is actually for Dallas. So let's click on that. So there's Bobby Fisher again, and he's in the Dallas territory. So if we had other resources assigned, active resources assigned to a territory, they would be listed here. So just like how we have Dallas, we would have Austin, as well as we have Houston with their corresponding service resources or technicians listed under them. So, a dispatcher, they can manage multiple territories at a time or have a view on multiple territories at a time. So in theory, for this particular individual, they would have maybe a view of Texas, and Texas would be divided into multiple territories. So that's why they would have these other territories. If we come over here, this is the dispatch console setting. So this is just a lot of settings that the dispatcher can kind of configure that would work for them. So, filter resources after running, get candidates, scheduling window length, that's 14 days, service appointments per page, 75. So coming back to here, as that setting is set as 75, you would have a list of 75. You could have a maximum of 75 listed on this Gantt view. If you wanted to change that number, obviously, and make it less, then you can. You can adjust the height of the rows on the Gantt. Once again, these are default settings, so it's set to medium. So you could go to extra small. So let's just have a look at that so you can see how that might adjust. So if you notice the height of this row, it just became narrower, a little bit less, it's a little less clear to read, but you see how by making that adjustment, it changes. And obviously, this allows you to just see more um, service technicians on your screen at any given time. So we'll come back to here. We have extra small. We just make it large for right now, and then we'll save it and we'll see what that looks like. So you can filter by duration type. Um, we won't get into that. And then you can also set default Gantt view to today. So every time the Gantt would open up, it would default to today's date. The way it is right now is it will default to where you left it. So if you were to leave the Gantt view and come back to it, um, then it would come back to wherever you left it, not for today's date. Um, Here you can change the default sidebar view. So right now we have appointment list. You can change it to territory filter. Um, Most instances, I mean, you would just leave it as a appointment list. And this is some color coding that you can do. So we're just gonna come back up here and just save that. So we had made that adjustment and we made it large for the row, and as you can see, it's much more, it's wider now and more clear. So just continuing down here, in terms of what is displayed on this left-hand side, right now we have all service appointments listed here. Now, if we were to change this to, let's say, to do, that just changes. So that looks at the status and it changes what service appointments are listed here on the side. So once again, you could look at cancel, contractors, crews, flags, in jeopardy, recently used, rule violations. So there's a lot of different views. So we changed it to rules violating. So basically there's nothing that we have that's a violation. So there's nothing displayed here. So we'll just go back to all. So, or you could look at canceled also. So it just depends what you want to look at and what's important to you. So you can just change what service appointments are listed. This is the horizon. This is how many days out you can look for service appointments, and then whatever date you have selected here. The date that you have here could be different from what you have on the Gantt. In our the settings I have right now, we have match the Gantt date. So whatever's on the Gantt would be displayed here, and vice versa. Um, these are once again, these are almost, you could call them filters in terms of what shows up um, here. We won't look at these, but what you can do is actually, if you check on something that you can schedule, so those, like for example, you checked off these service appointments, we could schedule them, or we can dispatch them. Um, so once again, there's quite a few options here. Um, So let's say now let's look at the service appointments that we have listed here. If you click on a service appointment, so everything here is not on the Gantt, they haven't been scheduled yet to a technician. So if we click on this particular service appointment, the 0015, we can get a little bit of like information concerning that service appointment. So the count ID is Burlington Textile, the due date was the 13th. Parent record type is a work order, parent record ID. So if we wanted to, we could flag the service appointment, we could schedule it, we could look for a candidate to service the service appointment, and then also we can edit. So if we wanted to look at this in a bit more detail or make changes to the service appointment, we can do it right here also. And then we could reshuffle. We'll get to that. But for example, if you click on edit, once again, this brings up a highlight of what the service appointment is. Once again, we have the status, we have the account type, what type of work order it is, the date and the date and time, and the address if there was one on here. So what here we're looking at a service appointment. You could here look at the same thing. Look at the work order. The work type is listed here. Um, so and then here you can see the related for that service appointment. And if you wanted to look at account also. And then like if we're looking at service appointment, if you want to look at this in more detail, then you can go to a expanded view. So we just click over here. So that'll just, your typical view that you would have. You can open up a service appointment and you can see all the relevant information that you would have on the page layout. And then also you could look at the related list also for that service appointment. So we're going to just come back to the field service viewer and the dispatcher console. So we're just going to click on that. So once again, if you had a service appointment, you could click on that and you could click on candidates. What that will do is if you had a more than one service resource listed here, it would find the most appropriate location or the most appropriate individual to give the service appointment to, as well as the time slot. And it looks at the skills and things of that nature also. So this is basically get candidate to see who's the most viable candidate. And it will give you a grading also. So that is, if we come back over here onto the Gantt view, you can notice here it says utilization 56%. So as this person is working 8 hours, um, their utilization is only 56%. So this person, in theory, could take at least 2 or 3 more service appointments, depending upon the length and things of that nature. So just it's actually this is because we only have one individual here. This utilization would be a utilization for everybody that we would have listed on the Gantt view. In our case, we only have one individual, so it's showing 56% utilization. So coming back to the Gantt view, if we pick the service appointment here, we're going to right click on it. And for this particular appointment, we could look at further details. We could flag it if, for whatever reason, there's an issue, or you can just flag that service appointment. You could reschedule the service appointment. Um, you could check the rules on here. Once again, you can do get candidates. So if you want to change it for potentially to another service resource, you could do that. You could change the status to cancel, dispatched, or none. Reshuffle. You can look at the map. We won't talk about group name, and then also you can pin a service appointment. So if you were to pin it, you'll notice there's a little lock icon here, and it'll just say this service appointment is pinned. So what that means is this particular service appointment cannot be moved right now. It's fixed on the Gantt view, so I can't move it. Nobody else can move it. So if the service appointment needs to be performed at this particular time for this particular resource, you cannot change it. What you'd have to do is come back here, right click, and then unpin it. So that's a very powerful feature that is used quite often on the Gantt view, where this service appointment, it can only be performed at that time. That's argument say that's the preference for the customer. They're only available. That's the only time that they're available, and that's when that's when the work needs to be performed. So now moving on. So the other thing that you can look at here is right now we're we have a number of tabs here that are default. So if you wanted to, you can go to accounts. You can see all the accounts that we have. You can look at our work orders here. So these are the work orders that we have in the system. We look at our service appointments. And these are, regular list views that we have. And then service resources, these are the technicians that we have in the system. Service territories, these are the ones that we have listed. And then your operating hours. And most of these we've already spoken about in previous webinars. So now let's come back to service resource. So I've highlighted the main features that we have on the dispatcher console. We talked about the Gantt view, as well as the service appointment and the resource list that we have on the left-hand side, and the ways that we can change things. For example, here we have search service appointment. So if you're looking for a particular service appointment that might not be listed, you can search for it here. The other thing that you could do right now, we only have these three columns listed: appointment, the status of it, and the earliest start permitted. Um, we can change this field set and add additional columns if needed, depending upon your organization's needs and things of that nature. So you would go in there and change the field set to change that view, so you can see the columns or the information that you would require. Okay, so now what I want to talk about is the optimization, or the scheduler optimization. So there's three types that we have. There's a global optimization, there's an in-day optimization, and there's a resource optimization. And that's where you can optimize an individual's service schedule on the day of the service. And the way to get to that is if we come over here and we see these three dots. To get to that, we have resource service optimization. And if we were to click that, we get some more options in terms of how we want to do it, which policy we want to apply, and things of that nature. If you click on optimize, it will just optimize that individual schedule. Now, if you notice, we just got a notification here. So let's see what it says. Optimization failed. There was an error in the optimization request. Click for more information. So we're not going to look at that, but that's how you would get to it. And then once again, what this allows you to do is, if things in the day have changed, or in, let's say, argument's sake, that resource is not available in the evening, in the afternoon, like after 2 o'clock or whatever the case may be, what this allows you to do is to fix that, um, to re-optimize that individual. Uh, you could do fixed overlaps here also. So if you had two appointments, let's say one appointment ran into the other appointment because it took longer to complete that service appointment, you could run this fixed overlap, and that would fix that problem for you. So that's resource optimization. So once again, that's where you're optimizing an individual schedule for that day. The other two that we have is global optimization and in-day optimization. So what we will do is we'll come back here and type in field service. We're going to go to field service admin, and we will go to the field service settings, and we're going to click on optimization, and we'll look at logic. So once again, there's two types of optimization that the system has. Global optimization is the most powerful optimization. This is the optimization that runs overnight. It takes longer to run, and things of that nature. So it optimizes your team schedule for one or more service territories across a specific date range. You can configure the type of optimization to run in terms of from a, you know, what time of the day and things of that nature. Or you can just, as I said, run it overnight. And you can also do it manually when needed. So it's the most powerful optimization. And when you have a lot of service appointments, or your window or the time frame, like 2 weeks out, whatever the case may be, it takes longer to run because it's looking at a lot of different factors. The other one is in-day optimization. So it looks at today's date, and it allows you to navigate last minute changes to the schedule. As things change in the day, not only for an individual resource, but for other resources that you have. Argument's sake, you got 15 people in your territory. It'll look at those 15 people and it'll optimize the schedule accordingly and assign the service appointments accordingly also. So in terms of when the global optimization runs, it can look at the statuses and it will look at those statuses or those statuses on the service appointments to run its optimization. So these are the default settings. So um, these are the statuses for the service appointments: in progress, cancelled, cannot complete, dispatched, and completed. And then for in-day, once again, the default settings that we have here, they're the same statuses. So you could change these if needed. And if you have added any additional statuses, then once again, you can have them checked or unchecked, depending upon what you need to accomplish. So once again, this is under the field service settings, and then optimization, and then logic. There's quite a few things that you can look at. For example, if you come over here to the optimization, um, you have your territories here listed here. You have your months when you want to run your optimization, just one time, or do you want it reoccurring? You can specify day of the week, day of the month. So you have all the days listed here. If you were to specify specific time, you can do that here. So reoccurring time or a specific time. Um, how many days out you can do the optimization, and what type of policy would be applied when you're doing the optimization. And this would typically, and this applies to your in-day and also your global optimization. And if you wanted to, you could just do one now also. If you have it as one time, you could do one, just run it. So there's multiple ways of doing this, and it can get quite involved in terms of how you set this up. So once again, this is just an overview or just a glimpse into what field service can do. So once again, this is we were looking at the dispatcher console and what you can do. And even if you come down here, there's quite a few settings that will affect how your operations are done. But once again, this is a highlight of what is available. So, that will be the end of the demo. Um, if you have any questions, please let us know. We'll be more than happy to answer those questions and help you out. Um, so once again, thanks for joining us today in this webinar. There will be follow-up webinars also. Please join us. Here's our contact information. We have our address, our phone number, email. You can find us on social media. Um, any way that works for you. Please contact us with any questions, or if you just need help with a project, let us know. Thanks again for joining me today, and have a good day. Thank you. Bye-bye.